this conference will be a super conference, and my goodness, the rich do get richer.
On today's Odd Coaches podcast, Dr. Adams and Coach Francis preview the Big 12 and SEC, as well as give their initial thoughts on the SEC expansion. Welcome to today's show. Dr. Keith Adams is the president of the NCAA Save Project, a nonprofit organization designed to assist student athletes and the people who work with them through educational and professional development. He is a career academic and athletic leader with close to 30 years of experience on the high school and college levels. He has won numerous championships and epitomizes professionalism. Coach Mike Franchise Francis is one of the most successful football and basketball coaches in the state of Maryland. He too is a career academic and athletic leader with close to 30 years of experience on the high school and college level and is self-admittedly a little rough around the edges. Both men have mentored countless student athletes, teachers, and coaches using their unique methods and approaches to leadership. Both men also share a unique and special friendship that was cultivated often through their unique perspective of life and leadership. Dr. Adams through his extensive educational background and Coach Francis through his life experiences. Can these two men share a podcast without driving each other crazy? Welcome to the Odd Coaches podcast.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches podcast. I am Dr. Keith Adams, president of the NCAA Save Project, a nonprofit organization designed to assist student athletes and the people who work with them through educational and professional development. And with me today, as always, is my tag team partner, and in this case, my cane to my Undertaker, because we're going to talk about some death and destruction. Coach Mike Francis, Franchise, how are you doing this fine day as we wear our funeral clothes?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. Can't wait to get this thing started. Glad to see you, as always.
Oh, all right. Well, this episode is a part of our 2021 college football preview episodes. And today we are going to talk about the Big 12, such as it is, to quote Bugs Bunny, and the SEC, as well as our initial thoughts on the SEC expansion. And in this segment, we are going to talk about the Big 12 and using the official preview guide of the Odd Coaches podcast, Athlon Sports.
Shout out
we're going to please sponsor us.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the predicted order of finish, and we're going top down because there's no need to spend extra time talking about Kansas. So the predicted order of finish for the Big 12 is Oklahoma 1, Iowa State 2, Texas is 3, hook 'em horns, down, TCU 4, Oklahoma State, and I'm 40, Mike Gundy 5, I don't know how old he is now, West Virginia is 6, K-State 7, shout out to Dr. Rubin, who does a tremendous job with academic support there, Baylor is 8, Texas Tech is 9, I think that's it, and Kansas is 10th. Coach, what are your initial thoughts on the Big 12 as we start the countdown to destruction?
They play football in Kansas?
That's terrible, but you can't lie.
No.
Wouldn't Gale Sayers the Kansas Comet? But the fact that I'm quoting Gale Sayers is a problem.
I'll tell you how far back, okay. But no, I think that the way the Athlon has it ranked is pretty close to from what I see and looking at rosters. And I think Spencer Rattler is the best quarterback in that conference. I think overall he's the best quarterback in that conference. And for that puts OU at the top for me. Behind him is Iowa State's Brock Purdy. I think Brock got a quicker release, but sometimes get in trouble trying to force balls, so it might be a problem. And Spencer understands he can just get it to those athletes and let them make the plays. Once a quarterback realizes that, especially young quarterbacks, they really, really get set off to be exceptional. And shout out, before I give it back to you, shout out Jaleel Farouk from Wise High School, who's going to be a wide receiver at OU this year. Shout out DeLon Parrish, one of my former players and now the best high school football coach in the state of Maryland. And I'll leave it to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with the non-conference games to watch as an amateur sports prognosticator.
Hmm.
And September 11th, we have Iowa versus Iowa State. Again, everyone's talking about Iowa State, so I got to pay attention to them. And we did the Big Ten preview, and quite frankly, Iowa's not going to be somebody I give pause to, even though they love that Ferentz guy. We have the old school Nebraska versus Oklahoma, September 18th. But I don't think Tom Osborne is roaming the sidelines or Tommy Frazier.
Tommy
So
Frazier's not
we're going
walking
to
through
go.
that door.
We're going to go Oklahoma. We got Oklahoma State and Boise State on September 18th. And I believe Oklahoma State is actually going to Boise State. And I don't know who booked that, but I don't think I would have booked that game because Boise State doesn't often get these types of home games. So that atmosphere will be crazy. And then October 16th, BYU versus Baylor. It seems like every preview we have, BYU is playing somebody, and I'm shocked I don't see Notre Dame. So the projected major bowl teams out of the Big 12, such as it is Oklahoma and Iowa State. And notice I didn't mention Texas.
No.
Because for whatever reason, Texas always seems to shoot themselves in the foot. And I'm going to just kind of keep my focus on Oklahoma and Iowa State. Any thoughts before I give you my final thoughts on this upcoming season of Big 12 football?
No, sir. I think Iowa State and Oklahoma are going to – those guys are going to battle for the best, and I agree with you. I'm not sure what the ticket was for Oklahoma State to go to Boise, but it must have been pretty nice.
Well, to end this segment and to quote Billy Packer, this conference is over. And we'll be right back after this.
The vision of the CKA SAVE project is to use the combination of academics and athletics as a catalyst to lifelong success. Thus, the CKA SAVE project works to improve student-athlete academic and athletic performance by assisting student-athletes with transitional and transferable skills such as time management and organizational skills, along with the ability to self-advocate to help improve performance. However, we cannot do our work without the help of supporters like you. Consider donating to the CKA SAVE project. We accept tax-deductible contributions in a number of ways, including Venmo and Cash App at CKA SAVE project, or directly at the main page of our website, www.ckasaveproject.org. Simply click the donate button. We thank you in advance for your continued support.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast as we continue our preseason college football segments for the 2021 season. And in this segment, we are going to talk about the SEC. And the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, is the pinnacle of college football. It is broken into two sections. So we're going to give you the East first, Coach, top 7, let you respond, give you the West top 7, let you respond, and then I'll come in with some random musings and we'll predict the winners in that. So in the East, based on Athlon Sports rankings, we have Georgia as number 1 in the East, followed by Florida, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. Coach, where are you in terms of the SEC East?
The top 2, yeah. I think you're splitting hairs between Georgia and Florida. I really like Emory Jones, the quarterback at Florida. I think he's going to be he could be the surprise of that league, not to those in the league, but I think he can be a big-time story if he continues to blossom. I think that everywhere else, man for man by position, those two teams really have more than Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. Poor Vanderbilt. I mean,
at least they can play baseball.
Yeah, but at some point, Vanderbilt need to think about maybe leaving the SEC and go joining the Ivy League or something like that.
We're not leaving that bag, buddy. We're not leaving that bag.
Yeah, that is the truth about that. But we say it's for the education of the students, right? Yeah.
All right, so we'll go to the West, and number 1 is Alabama, followed by Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher, LSU, or Jerome better start winning. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, Auburn, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. And Mike Leach, don't buy. You might want to rent. What are you thinking about, Coach?
I'm thinking about Alabama being Alabama. Like that's not. It's to me. This has been a 2-3 team division for a while. Alabama, of course, always being there. But then there's three other teams that fight for that next spot, which is Texas A&M, Auburn, and LSU. They're always fighting for number 2, in my opinion. Those 3 fight for number 2 because Alabama, to me, traditionally, hands down, in the last 10 years or so, they've been really, really good. Coach Saban, they work hard. They make their players work hard. And you know what you're getting when you go there. You're getting smash mouth football. And if you're not strong enough, you can't survive. And they just usually are more physical in the depth chart. Like you might be strong as them, number 1, but number 2 and special teams, they're just as strong as their number 1, and they're just as good. So that's where they beat you in the depth of their roster.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you with that. So I'm going to go to the non-conference games to watch. And September 4th, there's a 2-pack that I can't wait to watch. Georgia versus Clemson. And also on September 4th, Alabama versus the U. Any thoughts on your end about that to see if
I gotta look and see.
Have a chance against
I'm going to look and see what on my calendar for September 4th because I'm not going to miss anything to see those 2 sleepers. That's Clemson and Alabama. That's neither one of them are going to be close in my opinion.
You don't think it's going to be close?
No,
Georgia
I don't think.
all right, okay.
I think Clemson by, and when I say close, more than 10, Clemson by more than 10, Alabama by more than 10. In college football, 14 points is a lot of points to beat somebody by 14, 21. So I give, I don't know what how do we say that? We're not betting.
It's a spread, sir.
This is just, but this is not betting. This is just for entertainment purposes.
Strictly for entertainment purposes only.
I don't know.
I'm looking forward to our intro to Sports Betting 101 segment. And with that said, the projected major bowl teams that I have are Alabama, Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, and Oklahoma as a teaser for our next segment. Any final thoughts on the SEC, sir?
Alabama and Georgia, pretty much to me, fighting for top 2 teams in that to play for the championship.
All right. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break, come back and talk about SEC expansion on the Odd Coaches podcast.
Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project, is releasing a book this fall called Finding the Balance: My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. The goal of this book is to give greater insight into student-athlete motivation to improve student-athlete academic and athletic success through the lens of Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic journey, from being an underperforming student-athlete to an academic and athletic leader. This book is also designed to be a guide for student-athletes, parents, teachers, coaches, administrators, and anyone else who has a passion to help student-athletes succeed academically and athletically. You can pre-order your copy of the book directly from our website at www.ckasaveproject.org. This book is scheduled for release in the fall of 2021.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast, and we want to talk and give our initial thoughts on the SEC expansion. It has been widely reported, and it's all over but shouting, that both Oklahoma and Texas will be joining the SEC in a few years following some legal maneuverings and wranglings and what have you. And to stay consistent with our previews, we're going to first talk about the projected major bowl teams for the new SEC. And after doing our Big 12 preview and doing our SEC preview and looking at who's going to be combined, if this is a brand new conference, super conference, I'm looking at Alabama, Texas A&M, Florida, and Georgia as the major hitters in a newly expanded SEC. Coach, what are your thoughts on the projected major bowl teams from the Super Conference?
Uh, it's it's unbelievable. Again, the rich get richer, as we said before, and they really invest into what they're doing into their programs, and they reap the benefits. I think the SEC is hands down the best conference of football. I still am. I cry once in a while when I think about how my son turned down Florida to be a left tackle. If you're a left tackle in the SEC, man, that's big time right there in the future. But he had to choose what he had to choose. So I take SEC, and then I'll take the Big Ten after that. Top two to me. Top two. And then when it comes to recruiting, as you see, Ohio State's consistently there. Michigan, oh my God, they snuck into the top 10 in another category. I wish if they're winning and awards and championships match the times that people put them in the top 10 for something. The only list they're not in the top 10 is busts and failures, where they need to be.
Well, let me give the audience a little bit of what Coach Franchise is talking about. So over the last 5 years, the USA Today did a ranking of the top 10 recruiting class averages. And as we're preparing for this newly expanded SEC, the top 10 recruiting classes by average over the last 5 years, Alabama, SEC. Georgia's number 2, SEC. Ohio State's number 3, Big Ten. LSU's number 4, SEC. Number 5, Clemson, ACC. And Clemson is the only ACC program listed. 6, Auburn, SEC. 7, Texas, which will be a part of the new SEC. 8, Michigan, second Big Ten team, Ohio State and Michigan. 9, Florida, SEC. And 10, Oklahoma will be a part of the new SEC. So this conference will be a super conference, and my goodness, the rich do get richer. Any thoughts before I share some initial concerns that I have?
No, sir. I think that pretty much sums it up for these two. The rich get richer, as we said. It's something to see every year in, year out, same people, same program, same system.
And with that said, so Dr. Sean Harper from the University of Southern California Race and Equity Center in 2018 released a report on Black male student athletes and racial inequities in NCAA Division I college sports. And his report mentioned several things about Power 5 schools, and it gave me pause as we move to this expansion of the SEC and the potential 3 to 5 different super conferences. But at Power 5 schools, according to the Black male student athletes and racial inequality report, Black men were 2.4% of undergraduate students enrolled at Power 5 universities, but comprised 55% of football teams and 56% of men's basketball teams on those campuses. In addition, 59% of the universities graduated Black male student athletes at rates lower than Black undergraduate men who were not a part of sports teams. And finally, 25 universities where Black male athletes were most overrepresented. I am not going to go through the 25 schools, but I am going to go through the top 5. And I'm going to give you an example so the audience can kind of know what we're talking about. So here's the example I'm going to use. Black men were 2.2% of the undergraduates at the University of Florida, but comprised 77% of football and basketball team members. Thus, there's a difference between 75% between Black male undergraduates and Black male student athletes in football and basketball teams. So with that said, Florida was number 1, Auburn was number 2, Mississippi State was number 3, Louisville was number 4. Louisiana State, LSU was number 4, and Louisville was number 5. So the top 4 teams that have the largest disparity are all SEC teams. And Coach, I got to tell you, that gives me pause. So it's one of the reasons why I'm extremely excited about NIL. Please gain something from your name, image, and likeness. And we're always at CKA going to promote finding a balance between academics and athletics because, as they said in Rocky, when they stopped chanting your name, what did you get from it? I hope you got at least a college degree. Any thoughts, sir?
I think that's the biggest thing. And as I said before and tweeted and try to explain to our parents, like when you're talking about college, think about the 40 years after, not the 4 years you're there. I tell my kids that my choice, if I had to choose between two schools my son could go to, my dreams were Naval Academy and Notre Dame. I know both of them he's going to graduate. Both of them he's going to have a career after, no matter what it is he chooses to do. But they're going to make sure that he graduates. They're going to pretty much put it in position for him to graduate. Those are two historic programs academically. And to me, that meant the most. Not that Maryland's bad, but the numbers, when you look at these numbers, it's hard to fight. And it's hard to fight against, all the BS that people talk about. It's hard to listen to it. I don't want to hear it's about getting an education. We're talking 2.2%. All right. When 77% of your athletes and only 2.2% are graduating
of your general population. Yes.
That makes no sense to me. That's sad. That's really sad. And the NCAA has been allowing this for such a long time and saying we should be happy to get education. Well, what are they getting?
Yes.
Explain that to me.
And if you look at the top 25 in terms of the inequities, 13 of those schools will be a part of the new expanded SEC. So 13 out of the 16 of these schools, based on this data, Black male student athletes are overrepresented where, yes, you can get in to be an athlete, but for whatever reason, there's a discrepancy in terms of just general population. The ACC has 8 schools. The former Big 12, 4 schools will be, in that situation. And Ohio State out of the Big 10 is actually 15th on that list. So to close the segment, I have no problem with the expansion of the SEC. I am a fan of what is called front loading, where, hey, tell me up front, this is what you're about, and then go be about it. But I do always caution any student athlete in any sport to make sure you maintain a balance because, again, this is a fleeting moment. If you're a college football player, if you're lucky, we're talking about 40 to 50 games. And then what? So that is our preview of the Big 12 and the SEC. We want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. Follow the Odd Coaches Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Coaches Odd, and make sure to like, subscribe, and share the Odd Coaches Podcast. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. And don't forget to follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.